welcome to Royally Unfiltered, the show that takes you behind palace gates like never before. This week, helping me tackle all the biggest headlines is royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams and former press secretary to the late Queen Elizabeth II and King Charles III, Dickie Arbiter. Thank you so much for being here on a very, very busy week for both of you. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dickie, but I don't know if I've ever seen a foreign leader be welcomed in such an extraordinary display, ceremony wise. It was incredible visuals.
It was incredible visuals. And I've been doing state visits since the 1970s on both sides of the fence as a reporter and within the royal household. And there's never been anything like this. Yes, each one likes to think that the boat's been pushed out for them. But this was unique in that there was a fly past. I'm not doing it in any particular order. There was a fly past, never happened before. They couldn't do the F-35 jets, Royal Air Force and USAF, because of bad weather. But the RAF flew, the RAF aerobatic team flew. There was the beach retreat, never happened before. There was a contingent from the American Army, very good. There were too, the pipes and drums, and they were terrific. And we had all these musicians. And yes, earlier in the day, we had the carriage procession, again, American president, never before. And Trump is although he's done 2 visits, he's the 4th American president to actually have a state visit. First one was George W. Bush in 2003, second Barack Obama in 2011, and Bush the first time in 2019. So the whole thing was unique. The unfortunate part, and I'm sorry to put a little bit of a damper on this, there was no public sighting of this. It was all done on the Windsor estate. There were high fences to actually stop the public seeing. It's a matter of security, and the American Secret Service are hot on the question of security, but it went off without a hitch, made terrific television. I think the American networks went gaga over the whole thing. And I think the Brits can be best pleased with it.
I mean, Richard, King Charles clearly understands President Trump's taste for spectacle, and he gave him plenty to boast about when he gets home. I think that the president just ate this whole thing up.
Oh, that's absolutely, as Dickie was saying. I mean, it was unique. But the situation, of course, was so unique because when Starmer gave Trump that envelope in February and made sure that it was given on television and knew perfectly well it would be accepted. The fact that it's the second, it was very controversial, of course. I gather that Queen Margrethe of Denmark and King Olaf of Norway were involved in 2 state visits, people doing their research, but essentially...
Can I interrupt here, Richard? The 2 you mentioned are family. So they were entitled to 2 states.
Entitled. The main thing, I think, was that President Trump will claim, and obviously he's the only American president who's had 2 state visits, and it will play these images. I mean, one of the glories of English ceremonial ever since I came over from South Africa in 1972 and saw Trooping the Colour. I mean, it's the precision, the colour, the extraordinary, the sense of timing, it all seems so perfect. And you had elements, if I may quote Shakespeare, so mixed in it, because it was absolutely fabulous to look at. You know, you had the carriages surrounded by the household cavalry and then 1,100 troops marking the Windsor estate. Quite extraordinary. And then to have 3, having the Grenadiers, the Coldstream, and the Scots Guards, and the formed Guards of Honour, absolutely unique, as you were saying, Dickie. I mean, you know, the way they were doing things in a way that hadn't been done before, Trump loves that. All this would have played wonderfully at home, inspecting the garden. Also, these odd little touches I noticed that the king or Trump would give a touch to the shoulder or whatever, move on and so on. It was all giving the impression that there was a slight intimacy, that they got on tremendously well. They wanted to give that impression, but of course they were going through. There were the pipers, the king's troop, Royal House Artillery. And then later, meeting the retreat, I absolutely agree with you about the American contingent. it looked like a part of Barry Lyndon of Stanley Kubrick's movie had come to life again. It was just stunning. I've got it on tape. I'm longing to rewatch it because I remember seeing Greeting the Retreat at Horse Guards, of course, years ago. And here it was the way this had been planned, the meticulous way, ending up, of course, with that glorious state banquet in St. George's Hall. And you've got the castle dating back to William the Conqueror. You've got the Order of the Garter dating back to Edward III. And also, of course, you had the opportunity for them to visit St. George's Chapel and pay homage to Queen Elizabeth. It was perfection. I do agree with Dickie's point regarding the public and the fact that he saw nobody other than royal staff. But I also note from what we were seeing that reports indicated that there were very few protesters this time. It's very interesting because obviously this was controversial and obviously didn't address both houses because
don't you think that there would have been more had he been more centralized? I mean, Windsor was a nice little escape.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's no doubt at all about that. I think that there was no purpose in protesting in Trafalgar Square when the action was happening at Windsor. And also, of course, all the helicopters and, of course, where necessary, things were arranged so that security was absolute. But the scale of what we gave in that first day, I can't imagine that he would have conceivably dreamt of anything more. And that put him in a very good mood, which was precisely what it was intended to do. So it'll be playing out in America. You'll be seeing it for weeks, months, perhaps.
What I thought was very interesting with Beat Retreat, there was a nod to President Trump right at the end with the playing by the mass bands of the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And then it was a nod to King Charles III with Elgar's Land of Hope and Glory. So both heads of state were satisfied. The whole thing was brilliantly choreographed, as only the Brits can do. I've seen other forces and ceremonial duty, very good for what they're doing. But, we've had a lot of practice at it. We've had a lot of heads of state coming over. So we know actually what we're doing. And we've done it pretty well.
Yeah, amen.
On the back.
Amen. All right, Dickie, at one point while inspecting the guard, this was at Windsor Castle on day one, a jovial King Charles joked with President Trump to watch the sword. We talk about President Trump, the small gestures where he's touching the backs of Prince William or even the king, allowing the king to just briefly touching the king. But that was a unique moment too, where the king cracks a joke in such a serious, knowing all eyeballs are on him, it might not necessarily be a serious moment, but knowing that every lip reader and everybody's going to dissect this moment.
That explains the relationship between the two men. They got on extremely well in 2019, despite all the protests in London at the time. And they got on extremely well this time. The king made the point to beware the sword, because when the guard commander is taking his leave, he salutes by dropping the sword down. I don't know how close the sword was to the president. I doubt it was very close, but it was just a nice exchange between two heads of state. And that really does show off the relationship that the two have with each other.
What is the significance of the president being greeted by William and Catherine? Why was this so significant that William and Catherine met the president and first lady at the helicopter?
There is always a lower down member of the royal family, not the head of state. The head of state greets the visitor at the saluting place, wherever it might be. it happened that it was in the quadrangle at Windsor Castle. The Allure Royal, and when I say Allure Royal, with all due respect to William and Catherine, will always meet the president wherever they land. Now, we had the president land at Stansted Airport. He was met by the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper. And when he landed from the American Embassy on the East Lawn at Windsor Castle, he was met by William and Catherine. That is normal practice.
Okay.
Because that is not the ceremonial arrival. The king and the queen are there for the ceremonial arrival. It's not downgrading or anything like that. In the past, it might have been the Duke of Kent, it might have been Princess Alexandra, it might have been the Princess Royal, or dare I say, the Duke of York. But it is always another member of the royal family.
Perfect.
But it's the king and the queen, the official welcome.
Thank you for clarifying for me, because I saw some talk about that it was a big deal that it was them, and it's always a big deal when I get to see William and Catherine.
There's been so much talk. I think one of the notes you sent through was that the Queen shooed Kate away.
Oh my gosh, I know.
That is absolute nonsense, because
I know.
I watched the whole coverage, and if you watch it, 5 seconds after that hand gesture, a carriage came past.
So she's almost like she was
always going to be run over.
Yeah.
So all Camilla was doing was say, move.
Right.
But,
that was page 6. I want to clarify that was page 6, though. That was not my observation. I thought it was silly. I was hoping we could debunk the story.
It's a foreign press, all led by People magazine, which I sort of reckon it's a sort of National Enquirer upgraded.
Oh, gosh. Well, Harry and Meghan hate to hear that, since that's their personal press release system. Richard, I want you to...
volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Richard, I want to talk about the moment that I found so sweet. And I have seen criticism about it. We see President Trump greet the Princess of Wales and say, "You are so beautiful." And, he's shaking her hand, telling her how gorgeous she is. There's also, I don't want to jump to the banquet, but we might as well. The sweet moment at the banquet where he talks about how she's so radiant and so healthy and beautiful. And he says it's a great honor to be there with her. Now, there has been a lot of criticism about this online, and I totally disagree with it. This is a woman who every day has to deal with people judging her looks. Is it a wig? Is that her real hair? Is she wearing extensions? Talking about her physical appearance post-cancer, which I think is so cruel. How sweet of the president to just make her feel comfortable in that moment, I believe, by saying, "You look beautiful." I mean, I'm hoping that the objective was to boost her confidence a little bit.
I think the objective was, and also the fact is that I think he was being perfectly sincere, and also I think he was stating a fact. She did look, she dropped dead gorgeous, and I think that aspect of it, I mean, the facts are that, Dickie was saying why the William and Catherine met the Trumps, but there's no doubt that anything that involves them is particularly special because it involves them, and because they, not only 4 members of the royal family are working under 70, but of course they are the next in line, and of course they will have a very, very special place internationally. Anything that actually involves them, I think, will get an international coverage, which other members of the royal family won't get. I'm hoping that she will be well enough. I know she's in remission, and hoping that when it comes to the 250th anniversary next year, that they will be representing Britain, which I would have thought makes perfect sense. I think it was, I know he was talking a lot about appearance, and I know also some people don't particularly like women's appearance being commented on. Given the days we live in, things have altered to some extent in that respect, the way men talk about them. And I think also anything President Trump says will annoy some people because it's him. And we know he's a tremendously divisive figure. But on the other hand, I thought it was charming. And also you will have seen the still from the banquet, which made her look, I can only say, absolutely exquisite, sort of fairy tale princess. And putting it mildly, I would say that he looked admiring, and allowing for the fact that he's as controversial and divisive as we all know. I think that was the purpose of all this, to flatter him. I mean, that was our whole idea of having something which we've been admiring. And from that point of view, I thought it worked.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stick my oar in here, because I saw that picture and I thought, wow, this is delightful. An old-fashioned word that I'm not terribly sure you're allowed to use today, but I think they were flirting.
I love it. I love it. That is the cutest. I thought that too.
I'm shocked.
I immediately
No, you're
thought,
not.
flirt alert when I saw that photo. What a cute reaction. Well, King Charles, Dickie, joked during his speech that had the media succeeded in the 1970s in their own attempt at deepening this special relationship between the US and the UK, he might have been married off within the Nixon family. We know that Nixon did try to set him up with his daughter. Sally Bedell Smith told me that Jenna Bush, daughter of former President George W. Bush, encouraged Prince Harry to date her twin sister, Barbara. Oh, what might have been, Dickie? Prince Harry could have been at that dinner last night with the Bush girl instead of in Montecito with perhaps a joint and a surfboard.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, I remember I was reporting in those days, when I say those days, 1970. And yeah, Tricky Dickie tried to set him up with his daughter, Patricia. It didn't work. Look, the King, Prince of Wales, was only 21. So he was a long way off even thinking about getting married. He was just out of university. He was about to go into the services. He was invited there along with his sister, the Princess Royal, to the United States. I mean, the president was using the royals to boost his image. He'd been elected in 1969. He wasn't particularly popular. He didn't push forward a particularly good persona when he was Eisenhower's vice president, but he was going to use the royals to try and boost his popularity. It didn't work because we know what happened to him a few years later. But yeah, at least the king could joke about it, and that's a good one on him.
That is cute. And today, Richard, we saw lovely royal engagements. Can you talk me through Queen Camilla and First Lady Melania Trump visiting Windsor Castle? They're touring the library together, the Royal Library, Queen Mary's dollhouse. The visual of them around school children. This was a home run for Queen Camilla as well.
Oh, I think that, firstly, I think her link with reading has been tremendously beneficial, because it was, dare I say it, in an era of online, and we all know what that involves. It's still tremendously popular, and she's championed it and taking the First Lady round the Royal Library and looking at specific various books and so forth. I mean, I think the optic also, dare I say it, now we're talking about flirting and the like, I thought that the First Lady looked particularly stunning in that outfit. I used to cover London Fashion Week, and I must make that observation, because all of this, of course, goes worldwide, and also, something that I think is very significant. I mean, the Queen Mary's doll's house is just amazing, because, again, I don't know, I presume the First Lady had previously seen it, but Lutyens' creation from the 1920s, it's like nothing else on earth, and it's also very, very popular with tourists, especially apparently American tourists. So I think that what we saw was a delight. Again, the way this program so meticulously put together, yes, and involving children too. The facts were, I think, it was absolute perfection. I think it was delightful, and also I'm very relieved that the Queen was well enough to carry out this, having missed the funeral of the Duchess of Kent on the day before the present and First Lady arrived, I mean, acute sinusitis can be, I'm sure, extremely unpleasant. And no, I thought it was an excellent idea. And of course, Catherine later, and the Scouts, Dwayne Fields. And remember that he featured in the video, I think it was in April, that she did to promote the nature and to promote the Scout movement as she's joint president. So I think that was a very valuable part of it. And of course, again, the First Lady going to checkers thereafter. But it was a very, very thoughtfully put together piece, especially given the way Catherine's been championing nature, and to give also the link there too with young people, because it's so important that, I mean, Dickie was making a point earlier about, again, the fact that this was very removed from what people were able to participate in. You didn't have live crowds in the street. The security would never have stood it anyway. But I mean, it was removed for the purpose, given that Trump is so controversial. But equally, I think they used this for images that, you know, will be always with us.
You're right.
I think as an add to what Richard was talking about, as far as Queen Mary's Doll's House is concerned, I think it's worth mentioning, and certainly viewers will be interested in hearing this, that everything in the Doll's House works. It has running water, the lifts work. Every single book there is a real book. It's miniature, it's that big, but it is a real book, and it is updated, upgraded on a yearly basis with modern books added into the Doll's House. So it is a unique piece of art, because it is art. 1,500 craftsmen contributed to making it, and it was a gift to Queen Mary, who is the King's grandmother, great grandmother, for the work that she did during World War I. So it is a beautiful piece of architecture, of engineering, of art. You name it, it is there, and people should go and see it.
Well, will someone tell my landlord? Somebody needs to tell my landlord that it has working elevators and I don't. Okay. You know, somebody's got to get him on the horn. I did want to ask you, Dickie, about the First Lady Melania Trump and the Princess of Wales, marking this historical moment, they're calling it here in the States, with their first joint engagement. They're calling it historical because they're stepping out together for the first time without their husbands. Do you believe that this is, would you call it a historical moment too? Or how would you define that, seeing these two women without their husbands there?
Well, I don't think we should make too much of it. Yes, it is historical in the Princess of Wales with POTUS. No, she's not that, is she? The First Lady stepping out together. It's happened.
It's FLOTUS.
Yeah, you had to think about it too. That's good. But it's happened before in other state visits where a female member of the royal family, and usually a senior member of the royal family, will go with the wife of the visiting head of state to something together, something that they will both enjoy, while the head of state goes off and talks politics. In the past, when Buckingham Palace has been operating, because at the moment it's being renovated, won't be operational till 2027. And normally head of state will go to Downing Street, will go to Parliament. But this time Trump has gone to Chequers, the country home of the Prime Minister. So FLOTUS has got to have something to do. And this is what they put together. And it was a very good program, because the Royal Library, the Queen Mary's Doll's House, and then going to Frogmore House, not Frogmore Cottage, two separate estates. Incidentally, Frogmore House was where, at one stage, the King's grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, when she was married to George VI, lived when they were Duke of York, before they went to live at Royal Lodge, which is occupied now by another Duke of York, but we'll push him to one side because we don't want to talk about him. So yes, it was a unique occasion for the Princess of Wales, particularly as she is coming back into the royal fold, doing engagements after a horrendous year last year.
Yes.
Not only horrendous health-wise, but horrendous in the way that social media were attacking her all the time.
Yes.
And the trouble with social media, it's a bit of a cesspit, I've said this before, is that people believe it. which doesn't say much about the population in the 21st century, that they believe everything in the past they believed everything they read in newspapers. Now they believe everything they see on social media. It's not a healthy state of affairs. So it was good that she was there to escort the First Lady to a Scout occasion, which Richard was saying she's been president of the Scout Association since 2020.
So cute to see the visual of the First Lady and the Princess of Wales distributing the Go Wild badges to the children. It was just really a great moment.
And if I might say, two very beautiful women.
Oh, I know, right? They're both absolutely gorgeous. Well, kind of the perfect segue. So thank you, Dickie. Classic Dickie, knowing exactly what he's doing. I'll ask this of you, Richard, the PR expert. During Trump's speech, where he does say the comment about how radiant and beautiful the Princess of Wales was, he's clever because he says His Majesty has also raised a remarkable son. His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, is really amazing. And I think you will have an unbelievable success in the future. This is being interpreted as a slam on Prince Harry because note that he said son and not sons, a remarkable son. We know that he's not Meghan Markle's biggest fan. I actually don't think I've ever heard him criticize Prince Harry. I think he says things like he feels sorry for him because he knows what he has to go home to. But did you interpret that blatantly as, I mean, does the Trump administration know that they're looking for any sort of hint? Or do you think that was just an innocent comment where the president was trying to compliment the king's, clearly his favorite person because they've met previously, and Trump's always very complimentary of Prince William.
And also, just to mention the fact that the way the king has kept in touch with the First Lady, I think it was 23, wasn't it, in New York they met, and he's kept in touch by letter, and I think that has been very, very popular. But yes, I mean, it's interesting that frankly, I have to say I put Prince Harry completely out of my mind. I wasn't thinking, in reality, reading that speech in the cold light of day with your prompts, it is indeed a snub because he has two sons and only one was mentioned, and it's a state occasion. So in theory, anyway, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the Sussexes have been quiet in the last couple of days.
Well, oh no, Meghan Markle today posting on, as ever, her gardening, her picking strawberries and a denim dress, because no better way to try to distract from such a huge monumental moment between our two countries. Meghan wants to remind us that she's selling jam.
Yes, that does sum it up beautifully. I do have to say it does. I mean, the various incivilities between, it's odd with Meghan. In 2016, she said that Trump was divisive and misogynistic, but she's been very careful. And I noticed for once, because I mean, one doesn't identify the Sussexes with any form of restraint in any sense. But when she was giving that Bloomberg interview, 3 times she was prompted politically to say what she thought of the state of the country, words to that effect, and so on. And she declined every time. And to me,
but she also lied and said she hasn't spoken about, I think she said since 2016. That's not about any politics since 2016. That's
2020, they were saying turn out and vote, but I don't think.
But she also participated in the Michelle Obama, Stacey Abrams, Hillary Clinton Get Out and Vote digital conferences where she was interviewed with those women to promote Get Out the Vote. She called senators here in the States because she wanted extended, I believe it was extended paid leave, maternity leave. So she, campaigning, calling senators as the Duchess of Sussex, with one Republican female senator saying, how did she get my number? And why is she giving me her title upon calling? So that was, to me, a dishonest statement, because we have seen her get political since she's been back in the United States.
So very, very obviously, she's become unnerved. I think obviously and clearly, looking at the list of Trump's comments about Harry, as you say, not from a personal point of view, his wife either saying or using the word nasty in reference to what Trump felt Meghan said about him, but also that Harry was had a horrible wife is the most recent one, but basically saying that he wasn't going to pursue issues dealing with what Harry might or might not have included in the visa application. And I can't help feeling that the Sussexes would be very, very nervous about saying anything that upset him, because you never know what might be in that application. Well, I can't see it going, to throwing someone out of the country and then a court case. And so I never saw that. The National had the Heritage
Foundation.
The foundation, they did, but I just think that what Meghan did, she might put a lot out or not, but I don't think anything would detract from the fact that had they actually, however difficult it was for them, and we know the problems, if the world has heard them, if they'd stuck as senior working royals, they would have been involved in a geopolitical situation where you've had an absolutely, today as well being, which we haven't discussed, but I mean being significant too, something that really was important and contributing to, one would hope, that human to humanity and also to NATO and the West and so forth, but something really at the meat of things where they were people of influence as opposed to whatever you would wish to call them, Kinsey, and you would put it better than me.
Well, glorified influencers is basically what we're witnessing these days. Glorified influencers. Hey guys, I want to take a minute to tell you about a brand I really love, Peak. They're reimagining wellness with science-backed tea crystals and superfood blends made with the cleanest ingredients. Everything they create is designed to make daily rituals simple and effective, whether for gut health, radiant skin, steady energy, or just feeling your best. For me, hydration was always tricky. I drank plenty of water, tried different electrolytes, and even used the right skincare, but still had dry skin, brain fog, and trouble sleeping. That changed with Peak's deep hydration protocol. In the morning, I take BT Fountain, the beauty electrolyte. It hydrates from within, smooths skin, and gives steady energy. At night, I wind down with RE Fountain, the calming electrolyte, which has a form of magnesium that melts tension and helps me sleep deeply without grogginess. What I love most is how clean it is. No sugar, fillers, or artificial flavors, just ingredients like lemon juice and beetroot. Within a week, my skin looked more hydrated, my focus was sharper, and I just felt better. If you want to give it a try, I've got a special link in the show notes for you. 20% off for life plus a free gift with my link, peaklife.com/Kinsey. Now listen closely. That's PIQUE life.com/Kinsey. Now back to the show. Dickie, we do have to transition because I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on Harry's Guardian interview, but I want to give a respectful amount of time to the beautiful 48 hours we've just had. So can you wrap this up for me in a bow and give me your judgment on how this state visit was executed?
The state visit was executed to perfection. The British government wanted to woo the president, as we heard from Richard earlier. Prime Minister Starmer handed a letter to Donald Trump in the Oval Office in February. It was a bit crass because you don't usually extend an invitation, then open the envelope and wave it around. Can I read this? And say, yeah, there's an invitation. But Trump wanted an invitation. He wanted to come to the UK. He's got close ties with the UK. His mother was a Scot. And he has an affinity with the United Kingdom. And the government were going to pull out all stops, irrespective of what the cost. Some people are asking, what are the costs? It doesn't matter, because it's about wooing our strongest partner. It's about trade. It's about relationships. It's about NATO, because America's been the major contributor to NATO. Trump did put his foot down and say, NATO have got to pull their finger out, give more money, and then we'll talk Turkey. Well, NATO are giving more money. And today at the press conference, he was very conciliatory towards NATO. America's not going to walk away from NATO, but they wanted NATO to contribute in the same way that the United States are contributing. So at the end of the day, was it a success? Highly successful. Marks out of 10, 11 out of 10, because it was perfect. On the royal front, you couldn't fault it. There was nothing to fault it for. On the political front, I think Keir Starmer will come out and say, well, we had a successful meeting. There were a few disagreements. You always get that between politicians. But at the end of the day, America will go back happy. The United Kingdom will go back to Downing Street happy. Everybody is happy.
Maybe too much of a political question, Richard, but I was kind of enthralled before this state visit with calls for Keir Starmer to step down over, is it Mandelson, Peter Mandelson's association with Jeffrey Epstein. I feel like now this visit has completely erased that headline, and Keir Starmer's in a safer space. Did Donald Trump save Keir Starmer?
Well, I think, personally, I do think things are very difficult with Keir Starmer, but the Tory press and, of course, the fact that Labour are so low in the polls, this is a problem, and they've got years to sort it out, to be quite frank. But nonetheless, day by day, drip by drip, especially online and with the fact that, Rachel Reeves, the Deputy Prime Minister, and also Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, and also the Housing Minister, was caught out and had to resign. Then the fact that it was discovered that Lord Mandelson, our ambassador, who deserves a certain amount of credit, by the way, for helping to orchestrate this absolutely remarkable 2 days and a bit, it was discovered that his relations with Epstein were considerably closer and went on for longer than had been known. But I would make this point. I do think that Starmer's position will have been improved because he's been behind something that's successful. But I fear that the left wing of his party are increasingly powerful. They're also getting on, trying to move, it appears, behind Andy Burnham, the mayor of Manchester, I think. And I do, again, think that there's been somewhat of a split in Labour on the left with Jeremy Corbyn forming a party. It's a very difficult time. The problem is that there's a budget in November, and when Rachel Reeves puts that budget forward, we've been told that it will show that Britain is very much in the red, and some of what Donald Trump, I must be outrageous, since you brought up political matters, and Dickie has also mentioned it. I must admit an agreement, firstly, with what Dickie's just said on defence, because it's absolutely right. For so many years, the European countries, post-Cold War, but they were spending a minuscule amount on defence and as little as they possibly could. And it's been Trump who's forced a complete change in that. But secondly, I think that Starmer will feel that a lot of this was controversial. There were a lot of people critical that he was giving Trump a second stage, but we know how divisive Trump is as a figure. But equally, there's absolutely no question that it's come off. And the fear, listening over the last couple of days, and Dickie will have done likewise, I know, to all the journalists saying that the press conference was going to be almost some form of explosive horror. We were seeing that, Zelensky being thrown out of the White House, something horrific like that could conceivably in some form of happened.
They were asking him about TikTok algorithms. I was like, come on, Peter Ducey, we need more than a TikTok algorithm question. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
But it is
what's happened.
I'm sorry.
What has actually happened as a result of this meeting between President Trump and Sir Keir Starmer is an understanding between two men. And Starmer has shown himself to be strong on foreign affairs and useless on domestic affairs. He can't get the domestic affairs right, but he seems to forge ahead when it comes to foreign affairs and actually get it right.
There's a serious problem here also on the two issues which did come up. One is energy, where it was interesting to see they had totally different approaches, but chose not to be combative, because when Trump said, drill, baby, drill. He said it at the end of a sentence, and he wasn't doing a challenge to Starmer, who, of course, is linked to certain targets for the renewables. And the other topic, of course, is migration, and that was just brought up for both of them playing to what they saw as their strengths. Not that there are many strengths as far as Starmer is concerned in that particular field, but it is fascinating the way Harry and Meghan, had they remained, would actually have been part of something that important. And also, don't let's forget the supposed 150 billion that will be invested in Britain. Certain companies, Microsoft, Google, and also the 150, I think, will be over 10 years. The way investments being handled, I'd love to know the American side of it and what Trump says about that when he gets back to the States, and this deal also. Apparently the Americans didn't concede over steel and so on. But overall, the optics are what counts. The optics are what will remain. And also, I think Dick is absolutely right that there will be residual goodwill in the White House for the next period, and that Starmer and Trump get on personally. It's so important.
Okay, I'm going to speed read some of these quotes to you, Dickie Arbiter, and I can't wait to hear your reaction. Prince Harry's Guardian interview. I don't believe that I aired my dirty laundry in public. It was a difficult message, but I did it in the best way possible. My conscience is clear. He says it wasn't stubbornness that led him to his book and Netflix series. It was having principles. It is not about revenge. It is about accountability. You cannot have reconciliation before you have truth. And when it comes to the book specifically, he says it was a series of corrections to stories already out there. One point of view had been put out and it needed to be corrected. You know, as well as I do, that so much of his book we'd never heard of. First of all, I'd never thought about the man's Todger before. I got plenty of information about that in Spare. The physical fight between him and his brother. What was he thinking? I mean, you have history in the palace. This is reeking of Princess Diana panorama. Like, stop what you're doing. No, this is a huge mistake.
It was a huge mistake, and somebody wrote the script and he learnt it. And he delivered the lines, because certainly Harry doesn't have the intelligence to write that sort of script. So he was obviously knew what was going to be asked, or said, well, you can ask me this, and this, and I'll answer the questions. You know, there's always a trade-off in giving an interview. You ask me this and I'll do the interview. And he was well rehearsed. He was, I would use the word duplicitous when it came to the book. He did criticize the family. He did air dirty washing in public. He did lie. And you go back even to 2021, that Oprah interview, they both lied. They've been shown to have lied in that interview. It was one long whinge fest of a boy who thinks he's entitled. Well, he's not entitled, and he should really stop whinging. Americans don't like whingers, do you?
No, not at all.
You want people to get on, roll your sleeves up, get on with the job, and if you can't do it, push off. And that's about the sum of it.
Did he blow up? Did he blow up all the goodwill that he'd accumulated through 4 days in the UK? And
look, those 4 days were well rehearsed. He put on a happy face, a face we hadn't seen in years. One of the reasons that he was able to operate so well is that Mrs. Sussex wasn't with him, wasn't there pushing him out the way and taking the first handshake, because that's what happens every time. No, he was on his own. He was in his element. He was meeting people who liked him, and he was supporting the charity. But when you saw him get back in the car, he had a face like a meat axe. So did he really enjoy it?
Did his meeting with the king, and you're a father, so you might be more sympathetic towards this than I am, because I was really irritated by it. Did it give him credibility at least even in the American media or the idea of public perception, did it give him credibility as this for this royal return, should I say, that everyone was trying to brand it as?
Well, people are sort of talking about a royal return. I don't see a royal return anytime soon. I mean, what did Harry do at the end of his visit? He let everybody know how much he donated.
Yeah.
Royals are donating all the time. They never say how much they've donated. The organization might, but they very rarely do. So the meeting was less than an hour. Were they actually together for less than an hour? Was he there waiting for his dad? Was he dismissed early? We don't know. Maybe we will know in the fullness of time. Somebody will talk to the American networks. I don't think there'll be a reconciliation anytime soon. As much as his father loves him, every parent doesn't want to see the child go away. My daughter lives away. It's terrible, but that's her life. But we're still very close. But so I would hope for a reconciliation for the king's sake, but I don't see it anytime soon. I don't know what Richard thinks.
Richard, he says in the interview with The Guardian that his focus needs to be on his father, and it gives the impression it's too similar to his comments to the BBC about how he doesn't know how much longer his father has to live. It's so disrespectful. I mean, not just to the institution that wants to present this strong front and with King Charles. I mean, the man is relentless. It continues to show up despite this illness. It's very admirable. But it does feel like for Prince Harry to keep repeating this, it jeopardizes that strength that the palace has built around him.
Well, firstly, I mean, what you just mentioned it again, what enrages me, firstly, he had broadly, and Dickie made the point about, a pretty good week overall. And then he went and showed very clearly that, as the Sussexes cannot remember, 19 months ago, he sees his father the moment he has cancer, he hears, and he instantly comes over. And of course, that's understandable. And he goes on Good Morning America, not to break confidences, but to talk about families and illness in a general way. Well, here at the end of this week, where I suddenly thought we had someone who was responding at least to new advice. He chooses the Republican Guardian to give the interview. I really cannot understand that. It's the mental attitude behind it. The fact William, who might all sorts of reports. Depends what you believe as to what William knew and whether he was available, knew that there was going to be the meeting of those aides at the Royal Overseas League. I'm sure the king wouldn't do anything, or would certainly not do anything significant without involving the future of the monarchy. But on the other hand, of course, I take Dickie's point that as a father, he naturally wishes a relationship with his son. But look at the way Harry blew it. I mean, there were several aspects to this that one sees. There was the Well Child Awards, where he always, with fighting with the balloon, with child was such fun. He's very good with children. This is the old Harry coming back. Fair enough. He talks about £1 million plus for children's charity. And then, of course, he goes to Kiev. But I really think to cap all that, and, fair enough, there's a link with Invictus there, and it's high profile, and it's only high profile because he's royal. And then you cap it all, and you go to The Guardian, and you make these controversial comments. I think it's a disastrous thing to do. And I think it's also fed. I mean, you could argue William is still outraged for good reason. Well, now he's just seen Harry behaving exactly the way he did before, that there's no change at all. And I mean, I just think it's awful. But it's such an old goal. It's so stupid.
It is so
stupid. Kinsey, I'll be very quick. As a footnote to this 4-day visit, Harry has an anathema when it comes to the British press. He doesn't like them. He doesn't want them near him. Who covered the visit? Media of his choice.
Yes, yeah.
Not the regular royal reporters who've been pretty kind on occasions, but media of his choice and his communications team. So he's managing the press. He's manipulating for his own good.
Which he accuses. which he accuses the British royal family of doing, manipulating the press and controlling the press. Wait, I have one more question. Oh, I wanted to ask you, Dickie. There was a report that the British government asked Zelensky not to meet with Prince Harry privately because Harry wasn't there representing the United Kingdom. In fact, Yvette Cooper, I believe, arrived at the same time as Prince Harry, and they wanted Yvette Cooper's meeting with Zelensky to be the headline, not Prince Harry's meeting. We find out, thanks to The Guardian, that Harry does have a private meeting with Zelensky. And I think, shouldn't the British government be concerned about something like that? Harry is not a representative of the UK, and he's not a representative of the United States of America. And is Invictus justification enough to take a president that is in the midst of a war away from war strategy to talk to Prince Harry? But also, how much of this is Harry trying to compete with his brother, who we saw side by side with President Trump all week?
Every time that the royal family here do something, you bet your bottom dollar that the Sussex are going to be doing something to overshadow. I think Harry's visit to Ukraine was the political or the visit side of photobombing.
Yeah.
He was overshadowing anything else that happened, because all you got were reports of Harry being there, of Harry hugging war wounded, of Harry. Who gives?
And you know what?
Yeah.
What happens, Dickie, in 2027, though, with the royal family being asked to Invictus? Will the king go? Will he be represented? A huge question mark.
It is a big question mark, but a day in politics is a long time. 2027 is still.
I think it was a week, wasn't it, with that wily old fox Harold Wilson?
Yeah, there could be representation of the royal family, but if the situation that we see today continues, it won't be senior members.
That's interesting.
There'll be a message. There might be a video.
Enjoy
message.
the York sisters.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to suggest.
No.
Perfect.
No, don't need the York sisters. Don't need anything York.
All right. Agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Dickie, Arbiter, Richard Fitzwilliams. I know that you both need a nap after this fierce, not only chat, but a crazy fun week to watch the pomp and circumstance that only you know how to do. What a beautiful country you live in, and what gorgeous traditions you have. I envy you.
Well, you do things pretty well too. When I watched those American soldiers yesterday in their uniforms, they were performing a perfect drill, and a drill that they can be proud of, and our guys were watching them.
Oh,
past gleaming and the battle hymn of the Republic. Oh yes, splendid. Did we compliment each other? I think so well.
We do. Well, we love each other. According to Donald Trump, we do. All right. Thank you so much for your time today. And I will talk to you gentlemen both very, very soon.